Hey folks, it's Leonie from Live Well with Leonie, and I'm here today to show you how easy it is to make butter in your Thermomix. Now, I will admit I do often buy butter, but if I see cream on special, then that's my tip to make my own butter. Why is that, you ask? Well, when cream is close to its use by date, that's when it goes on special, and that's the kind of cream that makes the best butter. Fresh cream is fine, it just takes longer for it to become butter, but the older the cream is, the quicker it whips up and turns into butter, and it does develop a really nice flavor when you do that. So next time you see cream on special, grab it. Now I'm just going to show you what I've got here. I have got some, you can see it was on special, it was half price, bargain, and it's Norco pure cream. Now I know some people make butter out of thickened cream. Personally, I don't like having the additives in my butter, but if you like that, if you like thickened cream, go for it. It works just as well with thickened cream. For me, it's pure cream, and that's what I'm going to be using today. So let's have a look at how easy it is to make. First of all, I've got my Thermomix. It's a TM7, but you can make this recipe in any model Thermomix, so don't stress if you haven't got a TM7. Just use what you've got. I'm going to use these particular accessories that come with your Thermomix. I've got the simmering basket, I'll be using that as a strainer, and the butterfly whisk, which is what's going to do my whipping to turn my cream into butter. So let's have a look at how easy it is to do. Now first of all, I'm going to put the butterfly whisk into my bowl. You know the hole here fits over the knob of the blades, and you actually want to put it in so it's, when it goes round, it's going round on the, pushing against the high blades. It'll work if you put it the other way, but this is a lot safer and stops your butterfly whisk from actually becoming loose, which could be a little dangerous with what we're going to make. It could get chopped up. So I've popped that in there against the high blades. Pop that on here. Now I've actually saved the recipe in my week, and I'm going to go down to the bottom setting here, find my week, and I have here butter. So let's get started. It says 10 minutes prep, total 10 minutes, so easy. 10 minutes, and this is going to make 250 grams of butter. So I can tell you I paid, what I paid for this, $3 for this 600 ml container of cream. 250 grams of cream, butter these days, I don't know, it costs anywhere up to like $6, $7, $8. It's just disgusting. So I'm going to say start. Insert butterfly whisk. I've already done that. So I'm going to go next. Now put the cream in. This is so easy, this recipe. And it's a whoops, it's gone everywhere, but that's okay, because I've got quite a lot of cream stuck at the top here. And I'm going to just use one of my Thermomix thin spatulas just to loosen that out. There we go. And I'm just going to give it a good scrape to get the rest of that thicker cream that's stuck on the top there out. So even though it's not thick-end cream, it still does, shall we say, coagulate at the top, and that's all good stuff. So the thicker cream coagulates at the top. I'm making such a mess here. There we go, that's going to do. I'm just going to scrape that there, pop it back in there, set that aside, put that down here. Just give this a little wipe off because I've impacted the side of the bowl here and I don't want that to affect the lid. Okay, just a little tidy up of my splashing there. The great thing about the new TM7 is that this is all solid. So the chances of you actually getting anything inside the mechanism is much lower than on previous machines, but a little bit of care and less splashing is what keeps your Thermi looking great. Anyway, I've done that. I'm going to tick that off. Say next. Okay, I've got to put the lid on top. You can see here it visually shows me I need to put the lid on top. And it's going to go for 1 minute at speed 4. Now you know when you use your butterfly whisk, you shouldn't go over speed 4, because if you do, it can come off and then it'll get crunched up, and that's not really what you want, plastic butter, you know? So let's pop that on. Now this butter might take a little bit longer. It whips up faster if you have it at room temperature. I took mine out of the fridge, probably an hour ago maybe, but it was still cool. You don't want it to be, hot. And you can see here it's starting to whip up. See how the bowl's starting to move a bit? But I think I made some butter the other day because I got 2 cartons of cream, and it did take a little bit longer than the recipe says, but that's okay because you can actually repeat the step and then stop it anytime you like. So I'm just going to stop it here. It's got 15 seconds to go. Wait for it to unlock. Wow, it's actually coming together quite well. You can see it's actually almost there. So this has been a really good lesson to me. I'm just going to pop that back on. Keep it going. Because the other day when I made the butter, it was cream straight from the fridge, and it took longer than this is taking. So definitely room temperature or slightly less cold is going to whip up to butter quicker. And you can hear by the sound that it's actually reached that stage. So first of all, it whips, and if you want whipped cream, that's all you do. But if you want to turn it to butter, you keep going. And that's the lesson making whipped cream. Don't always underdo whipping cream, and check it and make sure it's the consistency you want. Because if you put your cream on for too long to whip up to whipped cream, you will end up with butter. And that's fine because butter's beautiful. Anyway, I have finished that. And I don't think I need to prolong the time by 2 minutes because I have some awesome butter there. Now what I'm going to do is just take out that butterfly whisk. I'm going to set this down, hopefully if I turn this around a little bit without... Now I'm going to just scrape off the butter that's on the side here. It's actually still quite soft, but that's okay because it was at room temperature, wasn't it? Let's just get some of this nice creamy butter here off the top, because it is very creamy at the moment. This is what I would call spreadable butter, and you could use it straight away if you wanted to. But first we're going to do something else to it because it's still got liquid in there, which is the whey that's come out from the butter, or buttermilk. And that's really great for making scones, pancakes. It's more natural, shall we say, than what you get in the supermarkets as buttermilk. I'm just going to pop that into my sink. It's interesting, one of the things I learned when I got my Thermomix, as an older fashion cook, you used to scrape every last skerrick out of the bowl. Once you get a Thermomix, you kind of lose that anal thing because it's hard to get everything out of the bowl, and really it doesn't matter. So I've scraped that as best I can, and now what I'm going to do is just clean this off on the side here. Oops, you can't see that. I'm just scraping off my spatula, getting the rest of that butter in there. And now what I'm going to do is pop my simmering basket inside. So I'm going to use this as a strainer. Now if you have a TM5 strainer, you don't have this lid on, which actually makes it a lot easier to lock in and get that buttermilk out. But you can see it's coming out now, and it's very creamy. Look, if you don't want to cook with it, you're not making anything, you can freeze it and use it later, but dilute it down, and you can also pop it onto your pot plants. So I'm just going to take this off here for now, and I'm going to pop that to one side. Now, There is still some buttermilk left inside here, so I'm just going to give it a little extra pour off. I'm going to give this a smoosh down. So I'm smooshing the butter down in here, and I'm just going to squeeze out a bit more of that buttermilk, and I've poured a whole lump of it into the buttermilk, which is fine. Pop it back in. Easy peasy. Now I've got some decent looking butter there, but what we're going to do next, coming back over here, now I'm going to go to the next step. So I'm just going to go up here, set that as current step. I've removed the butterfly whisk. I've used the simmering basket to strain it out. And now I'm going to add in 500 grams of chilled water. Now, the colder your water, the better this is going to work. So basically, what you need to do with your butter is to rinse it. When you rinse your butter, you're rinsing out more of that buttermilk, and it's the buttermilk that's in the butter that can cause it to go rancid more quickly. So pure butter is basically just pure fat, whereas when you've got the liquid buttermilk in there, that's what can attract bacteria. So your butter will last longer and taste fresher if you remove as much buttermilk as you can. So I'm going to do that. I'm just coming back over here, hoping my camera doesn't fall over. So I'm going to just tear that back, and I'm going to add in 500 grams. Now I've actually had this water in the fridge, so it is really cold. You can use tap water, cold tap water, but at the moment in Queensland it's like really disgustingly hot, and the cold water is lukewarm, so I want it to be cold. So I'm going to pour that in there. Yep, pretty good. Pretty good at measuring. Take that away. Now I'm going to, it's already ticked that off for me, because the TM7, when you weigh something, when you hit the actual weight, it ticks it off for you. So I can go to the next step. I've got the butter solids in there already. Now I'm going to, what it's going to do now is just give it a good old mix up and smoosh that water through the butter. It's only going to take 5 seconds, and we're rinsing the butter. Now if you, with this butter, or with this mix up, we actually don't necessarily want to use this one for cooking, because now it's just the residue and it hasn't got the beneficial components that buttermilk does have. Buttermilk still has some of the vitamins and minerals from cream, but this second wash really doesn't. But what you can do is put it on your plants. So I'm just going to rinse that out. You can see it's still quite milky. So I'm going to grab my simmering basket, and I'm just going to actually pour this one out. So I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I gave that a good wash out. Now I've still got the butter in here. It's looking so lovely and fluffy. And the recipe doesn't call for this, but I actually like to rinse mine twice. I have been known to do it more than that, because the more you rinse the butter, the less buttermilk is left in there, and the longer it's going to last and the better it's going to taste. So I'm actually going to go back a step, and on your TM7 all you need to do is click back. On your 6 and your 5, TM6, TM5, you just need to press the back button to repeat a step. On the TM7, it's a matter of scrolling up. Now this is showing as a past step. I'm just going to tap on the 3 little buttons, the 3 little dots, and set this as my current step. So it's actually going to go back and repeat this. So I'm going to add in another 500 grams of cold water, which is about all that I've got left. Oh, how good am I? 500 grams like that. And I'm going to go next. Oops, I shouldn't have done that. So this current step, it's so easy to go skip, and I didn't mean to skip it. So we're going to rinse this again. Look, you could rinse it for longer if you want, but kind of there's no point because it's flushing out the milk solids. Next. So I'm just going to give that one final strain out, and then we'll have our butter ready. So I'll be back in a tick. Okay, I've rinsed that out, and in smooshing it, I can kind of tell there's still a little bit of water in there. Now, a lot of people don't get quite as anal as I do, but I can hear that there's still some water in there. So what I like to do is to, let me just bring this down a little bit. I like to smush, like really compact that butter into there. And as I'm doing that, I'm kind of molding it down into it. And I'm also then creating more liquid. Can you see there? There's still more liquid in there. So I'm just going to pour that out. And that's got more water out. Look, you can keep doing this as long as you like, to be honest. The more, as I said, the more you get out, the better your butter is going to be. But like I said, most people aren't quite that pathetic about it. Now I'm just going to show you my final step, which is a little bit different to this, because what the recipe says is roll the butter into a sausage shape to make butter rounds, or form into a rectangle shape. There's tips on that. Use as needed. Now I'm actually going to put mine into a glass container, so a butter glass Pyrex dish. And I know from the last lot I made, it'll come to about here. So it makes a fair bit. And I like to store stuff in butter. I don't like to use plastic. So that includes plastic wrap. I could use baking paper or something like that to mold it into a log if I wanted to do that. And that's that recipe finished. Now I'm just going to show you my next. Now here's my last step. And as much as I don't like plastic, I have put on some gloves here because I'm going to massage. I'm going to massage my butter. Now you don't have to fuss around with this, but I have watched butter being made, and this is how they compress it to get all the water out. So I'm just going to reach into my bowl here and grab my butter, and you can see as I'm squeezing it, there's actually more liquid coming out. So I like to give it a good squeeze, and then I'm going to pop it into my bowl. And I'm going to do that with what's left here. So give it a good squeeze. There's still quite a bit of liquid coming out there. So, like I said, the more you squeeze it, the more of that liquid you get out, the whey or the buttermilk, the better your butter is going to be. Pop that in there. And it's so easy to scoop out. It's just like, it's soft and it's just delicious. And I'm getting quite a bit of moisture out of this. As I said, this is entirely optional, but it's you know, and I do love butter, so it probably won't last all that long to go off. And you can of course keep it in the freezer, but just massaging as much out as I can, fold it up like a little packet and pop it into my bowl. Now there's not much left in here. I like the other idea I like is that I can actually, in scooping it out of the bowl, it actually comes out quite easily, and you're not left with a whole lot of residue inside, which I think if you're scraping it out with a spatula, you can still get stuff left around the blades, but I'm scooping in and around the blades. So I'm going to pat that in there. There's a little bit stuck under there. Come on, out you come, dude. Poke it through, rub it out. And look, I could get the last little dregs out by putting it back on speed 4 seconds reverse, and that'll just fling all the butter out to the side of the bowl. But I'll show you in a minute when I take my gloves off. This is pretty clean now. Now what I'm going to do is just pat that down in there, and I can still feel there's liquid in there. It's just quite bizarre really. After I've squeezed it all, there's still stuff left in there. But I'm just going to take my gloves off now, so I'll be back in a tick. And look, that's how clean the bowl is. And you can still see there's still a little bit of buttermilk left in the bottom there. But that's okay. Now I'm going to take a little spatula I have. So I love these little spatulas you can get in kitchen shops. And I'm just going to use that to smooth around the edges and press it all down so it makes a nice butter pat. And I can see there's still liquid in here. Isn't that incredible? So if I smoosh that right down, there's still some liquid there, so I'm just going to pour that off as well. Look, it's not a lot, and I know you can't see me, but it's not a lot, and I'm pretty comfortable. I can actually see it glistening on top. So then I'm just going to smoosh this around a little bit, make it into a nice, neat little bowl of beautiful, beautiful butter. And look, if I had toasted something, I could have used the excess up on that, but I'm not going to be too pathetic about it. And that's it. That's how easy it is to make butter. It's awesome, isn't it? Now I'm actually going to just get some paper towel and wipe around the lid of the rim of that so it's nice and clean before I put my lid on and pop it into my freezer, this one, because the other one's in the fridge. That's it, folks. Easy peasy. And like I said, you can leave all that extra rinsing and stuff off, just follow the recipe, and it'll still be fine because we use butter up fairly quickly. Well, if you're a butter freak like I am, you do use it quite quickly. Have an awesome day. Stay cool.